Today we're going to talk about non-mainstream dialects and how they can impact your preschoolers. And presenting this information is Shelby, Olivia, Marisa, and Tala. So a dialect is a form of language that is specific to a particular region or a specific social group. An important thing to consider when talking about dialects is that they are rule governed, so they follow particular rules to that specific dialect. And it can impact the individual's vocabulary, how they formulate words and sentences in terms of grammar, and their pronunciations of certain words. But this does not necessarily mean that the speaker has a disorder or a delay, more so it is a dialect. So this table basically demonstrates how you differentiate between an individual having a disorder, which would qualify them for speech therapy services, or if they just have a dialect. So if they have errors due to their cultural or linguistic influence, that does not qualify them for services, and that more tells you that they have a specific dialect that they're using. But if they have errors that are typical or atypical for their age, their language, or their culture, then they would qualify for speech services. Standard American English is the form of English that we use in professional communication. It's also what we write in, and it's considered that newscaster speech that you would hear on CNN or the other news sources.
This map here shows several dialects that are regionally based in the United States, and this is color-coded. And of course, this is not an extensive list, and most dialects are not always regionally based, but this is just an idea you can get to see all the different dialects that are present in the United States. The main social group dialects in the United States that may be encountered in school are African American Influenced English, or AAIE, Spanish Influenced English, SPIE, or Chinese Influenced English, CHIE. African American Influenced English is a rule-governed dialect that is derived from Standard American English. Some characteristics of this dialect are mostly syntactical differences, such as dropping is and are from sentences, for example, saying that cool instead of that is cool. They also may use double negation, such as she ain't listening to nobody. And then finally, another example would be deletion of the final consonant in words that have two consonants at the end. For example, saying har instead of hard. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some of the common substitutions.
So another common dialect is the Spanish influenced dialect. The speakers often transfer their rules of grammar from their Spanish language to their Spanish influenced language. They may have some pronunciation of different sounds of the characteristics that are related to their Spanish sound system. Some examples of their grammar that they may use in the Spanish-influenced English is the words of en instead of in on. So they might say, I put the book in my book bag instead of I put the book in my book bag. The use of double negation, just like the African-American influenced English, and differences in word order. So for instance, they may say, he is a boy big instead of he is a big boy. And the third common one is the Chinese influenced English. They may have phonetic distortions, so letter sound distortions. Some grammar differences also include in this dialect are deletion of final consonants. So instead of saying soft, they might say soft. Or they say or have substitutions of consonant sounds. Or they might omit plural sounds, so they might say I have two car instead of I have two cars.
Multicultural considerations are important to remember. That culture can impact the language and literacy level of the child that you're working with, interaction with and attitudes towards general healthcare professionals, such as speech-language pathologists, willingness to reveal personal information, daily routines, description and communication of symptoms, and health-seeking behaviors. So this is all due to the person's personal culture and personal preferences, and they are different within each culture. So they may not be revealing some sort of personal information to you just because that is their cultural belief. For example, in the Asian American or the Asian culture, they often are more secluded and more put a focus on silence and not being too flashy. This is a list of resources to use for parents and teachers. They make great resources to hand out to different parents to explain to them why their child may be producing different sounds than typical kids in their class if they have a Spanish, African American, or Asian influenced language taught in the home. And also they're good to be familiar with, and they're a great resource for yourself. Okay, this is a list of resources that we use to create this presentation. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this informational on the different dialects that may influence the English language.